Hello and welcome to Tonalist Painting with M. Francis McCarthy. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and the painting we're doing today is Evening Path 12 by 12. We did the study last week, which was a 5 by 5, and they're actually pretty similar. You can see actually I'm doing kind of a little bit of a different thing here, where I sort of laid down kind of a tone over my toned board and then wiped away some bits. And this was just sort of experimenting a bit. I knew that I wanted to have more of a mass approach, and you can see actually I'm painting with a paper towel here. I'm not actually painting with a brush or drawing, and this is, you know, a mass approach, and it really worked out fine here. Like I was saying last week, this is sort of indicative of kind of a direction I'd like to go, with more emphasis on larger shapes and less detail. And it kind of got me thinking about back when I first was really trying to scale up my work to larger sizes. I had a painting I did. It was of, you know, some trees over a creek, and things just weren't working out. The tree just had some details and things that weren't working out. So what I'd done is I gridded the photo, and then gridded my panel, and then transferred the image that way. And that painting looks really good. It worked out really great. There were some problems with the gridding though, mostly in that the way I was preparing my boards at that time, I would see some of the lines because I was painting so thinly and showing a lot of the board color coming through at that time. The gridding was sort of a problem, but I after that I decided to use a projector to project my images onto the boards from the photographic reference, and that really, I guess it worked sometimes, but it wasn't that long before I realized this isn't good. It's not, you know, and I've talked extensively on all of my blogs about the problems of using photography, so I'm not going to get into that here. But suffice to say, the best thing that you can do with any image or painting is to actually draw it, and it's better to leave a lot of detail out and things like that. It's unnecessary anyway, and it doesn't usually add to the painting, and this is a progression that I think most painters go through, and certainly that I went through. And what I started doing was just, you know, drawing with my brush, and if it wasn't correct or accurate or exactly like the photo, it really didn't matter, because that doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make it better for it to be exactly the same proportions, everything in the same spot as the photo, etc. That's just something that's in the mind of the painter that's not an experienced painter, I guess is how I'll put it. Anyway, I might talk a bit about using the projector in today's blog post. That might be good. I believe I've been doing this a while now, so I know I repeat myself, and you know, I don't know if it really matters. I doubt that many of you were going and digging into all 180 videos, and then heck, there's a whole older blog prior to when I was doing the videos and things where I covered a lot of stuff too. And if you dig around in the blog, you'll find links to that in there. I actually, you know, sort of been blogging the whole time I've been painting. There is an even older blog that goes back to 2008 or so, where I was, you know, putting up my small paintings and writing about them. So this is something I've been doing for a while, and whether I'm exactly great at it or not, I don't know. But you know, at the end of the day, we're all just individual, unique voices, and the great part about being an artist is that you can express that individual and unique voice, and to the degree that you express it individually is the degree where it's something that people might want to look at, you know. Whereas if you're really into comparing yourself to others and or to cleaving to a certain school of painting, you might subsume that individuality, and that would certainly be to your detriment and to the detriment of your work, I think. Anyway, well, today, Sunday, 29th, we're almost all out of January. It's summer out here in New Zealand, and we've been having a pretty good one. Looks like it's going to be a pretty warm day today. This is my day off from painting in the studio, so I'll be working on this blog and video and doing some chores around the house. But yesterday I finished in the studio. I finished off the pass of about 14 little studies, where I'd done a little bit of a second pass on all of them, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. Sometimes you lose a little bit of that freshness. It's always a challenge not to overdo things or overwork things, and I don't care how experienced of an artist you are. This is something you'll probably always struggle with. The exception to that might be an illustrator who is illustrating and generally has a deadline anyway, so that might obviate that issue. But I also selected the 6 subjects of the 14 that I'm going to paint in a larger format, and identified each one and the size I was going to paint it. And so when I go in Monday, I'm going to be getting in and doing those underpaintings, and we'll see how many I get done. But for me, it's always just rolling over from one thing into the next, and I'm hopeful that that's going to be how it goes until one day they discover me in the studio and I'm deceased with a brush in my hand because I was working right up to the end. That would be, to me, ideal. Well, maybe not as ideal as just maybe going in your sleep or something, but a close second, I would say. So I'm pretty excited, I guess, about some of these ones I've got coming up. They're looking pretty good. I have to say that this painting we're looking at today, it came together really easily. And I've had some really good remarks about it. It's in my studio right now, and several people have commented on it appreciatively, and we'll see. It's gonna make its way through the world now, with me for a time, and then without me for a far longer time. And that's one of the really interesting aspects of painting, is that as a painter, they're such a reflection of who and what you are, and you're so close to them. But as you produce paintings, you of course are worried less about the older ones, and happy to sell them and or store them or do whatever. But they will have a life and history that goes far beyond your own time, and that's one of the fascinations for me with producing paintings, and with producing paintings on panel that I feel are going to have a long lifespan, and is a bit, I guess, not so much different than what those ancestors of ours were doing in the walls of the caves. Thousands and thousands of years ago, they were making their mark, and they're gone, but the marks are still here, and there's a certain fascination with that. And not that I'm necessarily that egotistical or that obsessed with people remembering who and what I was. The paintings will do that communication for me, and I can tell you, when I'm doing these studies after the masters, I definitely feel like I'm communicating with them, and that we are, brothers in landscape painting. That there's a connection there, and a lot of it, words don't really suffice to communicate what you're feeling and what's going on in your mind and in your soul. But there's definitely a connection there, and it's pretty cool. I like it, and this is one of the reasons why I do paintings, you know, that are real paintings, not just something that I came up with in the computer and that exists in the digital realm only. And probably talked about that digital versus reality thing a bit. It's certainly a theme for me, since I had a background as an artist that worked in the digital media for many, many years. Something we'll talk about more in the future, I'm sure. Anyway, we're getting close to the end. Thanks for joining us today. And if you'd like to see more of my work, go to landscapepainter.co.nz and check it out. We'll be back next week with another scintillating painting for you to check out. Meanwhile, take good care and stay out of trouble.